Rob Zombie blasts Marilyn Manson while performing a cover of Alice Cooper's School's Out. Wow, this was absolutely freaking nuts, man. I mean, okay, so basically there's a concert going on at Clarkston, Michigan, and at the amphitheater, right? And so basically you had Rob Zombie doing his thing on stage, doing School's Out, and then he goes off, man. He's just like, F Marilyn Manson, F you, Marilyn Manson, and not in those words, but rather a lot more profane, obviously. But this was supposedly a response to Marilyn Manson. Apparently he was late to the show. And so because of that, Marilyn Manson, he goes to the crowd, he goes, blah, 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 Rob Zombie, I'm gonna beat his ass. Well, he referenced Rob Zombie, he never actually mentioned his name. So Rob Zombie goes on stage, and then he does the F you Marilyn Manson thing. Alright, so what the heck happened? Well, this is what Rob Zombie said in his official Facebook statement. And he goes, stupid as this all is, I must clear things up. Things turned ugly backstage. Why? I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. And he goes off blaming me, Marilyn Manson, for something that I had nothing to do with, and screaming he was going to kick Rob Zombie's ass as soon as he got off stage. Goes on to talk about how his crew, he's known some of Marilyn's crew for 20 years, and some of his crew actually used to work for Zombie's crew. He had to respond to the kick my ass remark, and he wishes that he kept it backstage and kept the fans out of it. And really the whole thing was just a big freaking misunderstanding / immaturity. You know, it was just like these two old rockers, these old rock musicians that just got pissed off at each other. And it was just, honestly, it's just some ego trip. You know, it was an ego thing. Somehow, you know, you had Marilyn Manson just being, I don't know what it was with him. I don't know why he was so mad at, you know, he was directing his I'm gonna kick his ass remark towards Rob Zombie, if Rob really had nothing to do with it. At the same time, you had Rob just obviously going off on Marilyn. I mean, so the whole thing was just for Rob to save face. I mean, that was pretty obvious. When somebody says F you to you, a lot of musicians do this. You see this particularly in hip-hop, you know, in rap music, in the rap genre. That's very common. It's because that's a very egocentric, very braggadocio form of music. But even with rock music can happen time to time with this. Obviously, this reminds me of the Billy Joel Armstrong blow up, you know, attacking Justin Bieber. I'm not effing Justin Bieber tantrum. And but this one was a bit more. This one felt a little bit more kind of justified. Like, this one was definitely, you could feel the anger in Rob Zombie's voice. He was just really pissed off. Go check out the link in the description. The video is trending right now. Don't know why it doesn't have a lot of views. I only got about over 1,000 as I'm recording this video. Anyway, he apologized he's like, I'm sorry to the fans, embarrassing stupidity, give you the best show, that's what we intended. And he goes on, you know, had no troubles with Pantera, Slayer, Alice Cooper, Korn, Megadeth, or anybody else. Figures that it had to be Marilyn Manson, which is funny. He's like it's weird that Marilyn is like the closest, most similar act I can think of when it comes to Rob Zombie, and like vice versa. Like two artists that are the most similar in terms of style and music, Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson. And kind of like that post-industrial sound, you know, that grimy metal, new metal sound. You know, some idiot's gonna, you know, try and correct me. Oh, this is their actual genre, and this is what they actually make. Yeah, well, I'm not the biggest, you know, rock expert. I'm not a metalhead, so. But I do love their music. I mean, in terms of which do I prefer, who is better, music-wise, Marilyn or Rob Zombie? That's a good one. I love Rob's music. Some of his music. I'm not the songs I've heard from him are pretty damn good. You know, his music is all over soundtracks too. Like, you can hear it, like, if you play video games. His music is widespread. But same with Marilyn. I mean, I'd say Marilyn is more about movies. You know, you'll hear his music in more movie soundtracks and stuff like that. particularly from the late 90s, early 2000s. Marilyn had some great songs too. If I had to choose one, I gotta give it to Rob Zombie. I think he's a better musician. I prefer his music more, his style, his voice. That electronic sounding voice with the instrumentation. He's almost like a Trent Reznor. I don't know, like sort of that mix between electronic sounding stuff and then he's got his voice and it's like all warped and computerized and shit. That sounds really cool. Marilyn Manson, I don't like his voice that much. Like, I like his songs and the sound of the actual instrumentals and the actual feel, the flow, the emotion behind his music. And his lyrics are actually really good, but as far as his actual voice, I've never been a fan of it, you know? I don't know what it is. It's always sounded so, like, creepy, but it's kind of forced creepy, you know? It just, I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. Anyway, it's not really that big of a whoop. I mean, it is kind of like, whoa, that's a juicy piece of news, but honestly, this is just gonna blow over in, like, I wouldn't be surprised if people stop even thinking about this after a few days, you know? I mean, this is just, you know, just done, you know? It's not even that big of a deal. That's it for this episode of Review Space, and until next time, ciao!